Morning, morning. Hello to you all. Good morning. If you're watching the replay, hello. Welcome to 2022, people. How's it been for you? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? Let me know how it started for you. So let me just get set up here for you all. Make sure it's streaming okay. And the classic old request, when you're jumping on, give me a wave, say hello, let me know who's there. We're going to be going through an interesting topic today, one which I often get asked about. So grab your papers and pens. There's going to be a few really key points and quotes and tools that I'm going to suggest that you write down. So make sure just in this first minute or so that you duck out and go and get a paper and a pen. Let's see, we're on. Good morning, Kylie. It's good to see you here. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to see your comments as they come up. So make sure you put any questions as we go in the comments. This is not only me serving you information or tools or strategies, but it's also a chance for you to ask some questions as well. So welcome to today's session, the first one of our monthly bundle series for 2022. Number one, uno numero. You know what I'm trying to say. So as you may or may not know, there's a lot of new people in this group now. Okay, so you may or may not know me, and you may or may not know what on earth these monthly bundle series are. So firstly, I just want to say I'm Jessica McElveen. I'm the facilitator of the group here. I am a child behavior and family dynamics specialist, and I work with families all over the world with one or more children that has ADHD, autism, or anxiety. Okay, with really the goal to understand these behaviors and bring more harmony to the home. And what I do each month in this group is provide 3 or 4 free workshops, trainings, certain guest speakers that get to come in here and really talk on the topics that matter to you. So for the start of 2022, let me have it. Let me know what is on your radar, on your list. So I know that I'm meeting your needs, and we're talking about topics that really matter to you. And today's no different. So today we're going through a topic that I get asked about all of the time. We seem to have this wave or maybe this focus on the amount of pressure that children are feeling, experiencing in the classroom. Maybe the teacher has let you know that either your child cracks under pressure, is frustrated or angry when given a task at school, or they're completely resigned. They just tap out and they say, no, I'm done. I don't want to do it. I'm done. And they act up and they play up, right? There's usually 2 different modes that your child will go down when there is this pressure. So that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to be going through, why is the pressure there? What do we need to think about? Where does the anxiety, anger, and the frustration come from? Why is it present? And what we can do about it. And there's some just super simple ways and tools that we can start moving through these issues rather than feeling stagnant and that they keep reoccurring and nothing changes. Morning, Natasha. It's great to have you here. I'm glad this is a good topic for you. Let's see what we can get out of today then. Make sure you pop any questions in the comments after I say anything that I say. So a disclaimer though at the start. So if you haven't seen me present before, sometimes I talk very fast, and sometimes I may talk with a lot of passion, which sometimes sounds a little bit bossy. And I'm not trying to be bossy. It's just that I'm very, very, very passionate about the topics that I speak on, and I love my work. And that's all you're seeing. It's just the passion coming through. So that's my disclaimer. Sometimes people say, Jess, you sounded a little bit bossy there. That's not my intention. That's the disclaimer. Okay, so hopefully that's okay with you all. So let's get stuck into it. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Let me know how old your children are, everyone who's watching, either in the live with me or on replay. Let me know how many children you've got and what ages of children you've got. Curious to know what age I'll be speaking to this morning. I can adjust it depending on what age, because then we need to think about developmental stages when we think about the age. So, how to help a child who feels so much pressure to get every answer or everything correct in school. Now, if you're here, it's probably an issue for you, just like Natasha, you explained to me before. So, got 8 and 10. Thanks, Natasha. Okay, cool. Good ages for this then. So why do children feel so much pressure? It's a complex question. And before I answer any question, I always like to say there are so many variables we need to consider when we're thinking about child behaviors. Okay, I do this day in, day out with my clients, and sometimes we're led to believe that there's only one variable we need to consider. So, for example, if we've got anger showing up for children, then let's consider just the school environment, or let's just consider maybe the diagnoses that they've been given. It's just one aspect. There's so many variables underpinning that anger. We've got home, classroom, friendship groups. We've got biological needs being met, not met, their food, their diet, their learning environment, their communication style that they're receiving from you, their connection needs. We've got a range to consider. So I'm going to boil these down to 3 aspects to think about when we're trying to figure out why on earth is my child feeling so anxious or worried under this pressure? Where does it come from? So these are the 3 aspects that we need to consider. 1, modeled behavior, 2, environmental conditioning, and 3, biological brain function. Now, let's go through each of those really simply and just start reflecting on, or see what comes to your mind when I go through each one of these, each aspect, to say, yeah, okay, I can see how that might be relating to that child or my child. Just start jotting down anything that triggers thoughts for you when I go through it. So, modeled behavior. There is one way that children learn outside of all verbal and non-verbal language, and that's what you're modeling to them. So when we talk about modeled behavior, we're talking about what are your children learning from you without the use of your words. What I mean by this is, my mum used to tell me, God love her, my mum used to tell me, do what I say, not as I do. Who else? Anybody else say that? Anybody else heard that when they were growing up? Let me know in the comments if you've heard that before. Do as I say, not as I do. Now, what we know to be true now between parent-child dynamics and the relationship and how your child's brain is learning in your environment, in your presence, is that they're learning predominantly from what you do. So, how does this relate to feeling pressure in school exactly, Jess? Good question. So how do you show up and verbalize and action and behave when challenges are coming towards you in your life? What does your child see from you without the use of your words? Do they see that you're worried, that you shut down, or do they see that you think about it, you reflect, okay, and you still go after it, you still go into what you're nervous about, you still step forward and take action even though you're unsure of something? There's uncertainty around a situation, a person's scenario, whatever the case may be. So what are your children learning from you without the use of your words? Your words mean nothing unless your behaviors are proof that what you say is true. So if you've got any questions about that aspect, let me know. So what are you modeling to them? Now, what I like to say on top of this when it comes to modeled behavior is, yes, modeling is the critical part without your need for verbal language. Now, if you already show up in this way, we're not going to get this 100% right. Let's be really clear on that. But if you feel like you are conscious of this and you do still step into fear or worrisome situations, or when you feel like you're failing, you still show up and you tackle that task at work anyway, or you don't shut down and lock yourself in your bedroom and upset all of the time, then what you can start doing as well is start giving language to what you're experiencing and how you're processing your fear without needing to talk to your child if they're just in your presence. So we're not talking at your children. Let's just say they're watching TV. Let's just say they're playing Lego in the lounge room. Let's just say they're eating their dinner. If you can talk out what you're thinking, yeah, okay, I'm feeling a little bit worried right now, but being worried is okay. It's a normal feeling. I feel it in my belly. I've got some butterflies. Okay. All right, but this is really what I want to do. And practice makes progress. Okay, I think I'll still do it. I'll still give it a go. If you can give language to some of those behaviors sometimes, that will also help your child understand what you're thinking. Number 2, environmental conditioning. So what receives praise and what doesn't? Now, the world that we live in is so focused on achievement. It is insane. We are focused on achievement. We are focused on status. We are focused on significance. And we are focused on this overarching common narrative of what success is. So, being seen as really smart, being seen as really intelligent, getting a lot of answers correct in the classroom, even at home. How is your child learning what achievement is or isn't? So usually achievement is praised and effort isn't. Now, the thing is, once we, and you're all adults, okay, just like me. Now, once we get into adulthood, we start to realize that actually failure is inevitable and we are going to fail at things that we try. So is it not necessary to praise effort more so than achievement? Absolutely, 100%. Praise effort 5 times to every 1 achievement. Effort is more important than anything. Remember when your child started to crawl or walk, how many times did they fall over? 10,000 times, right? 10,000 times. Over, plop, plop, plop. But they kept on going. They kept on going. Now, what seems to happen in our environments and the social conditioning is that we start to perceive and we're told that failing is so wrong, so we don't even try once. And this is what children are experiencing in the classrooms. They're so terrified of getting something wrong because achievement is praised. Achievement is looked up on. You're put on a pedestal when you've achieved something really special. Now, this part requires you as parents to get quite critical on what you praise. Is what you determine as success really success? Or could it just be your version? What's your child's version of success in that moment or at their age or in their world? What is it for them? Maybe start having a conversation with them around that. So what receives praise and what doesn't? Start reflecting on and being really conscious on what you praise and start praising effort more so. Now, biological brain function is the next pillar that we consider when we try and figure out why the pressure is present. So with our brain function, what's going on there and what I'm talking about is we are wired as human beings and we experience this from a very young age. We learn very quickly. We are wired to belong. Now, this is belonging to our family. This is belonging to our classroom, our friendship groups. We are wired to belong. And if getting good grades or being seen as intelligent or being seen as smart is what makes them feel like they're accepted, loved, and safe in that group, then pressure will compound. Now, don't worry, we're going to get to the solutions. It's okay. But it will compound. So this is similar to when you're at school and depending on the age. I know, Natasha, you said you've got 8 and 10, so it will start to show up probably for your 10-year-old, is what we look like. You know, who's the prettiest one there? Who's got the coolest clothes? This has all got to do with wanting to belong, wanting to be accepted by the group, and in biological terms, wanting to be accepted by the tribe, right? This is generations and hundreds of thousands of years old, this need. It's a biological urge, which then creates the behavior. So the behavior that we're seeing with children in classrooms and schools is, okay, well, I get praised when I'm seen as really intelligent. I get everything right. And it's actually really embarrassing, or I get bullied, or the teacher singles me out in class if I get something wrong. I want to avoid that at all costs, because there's a risk then that I will get thrown out of the group. I won't be popular anymore. I won't have friends anymore. My teacher won't like me. My parents will get cranky at me if I get a B, B minus, C, A minus, whatever your standards are. So, and I'm just making sure I explain this all properly to you. I'm just reading my notes here. So our brain then, from a biological aspect, is wired to identify the scary and unsafe things. So for children, these are things like being bullied, like I mentioned, getting singled out in class, getting in trouble in class or at home. So they will either resign from participating in the classroom, or they will battle, which means that's the pressure and the anxiety to perform and to win. So children will go down one of two paths when they feel this pressure: resign. And when a child resigns, this is what you'll see. And you might have one of these children in school and your home at the moment, is that they will say, nah, I'm not interested, don't want to do this. And they act up in the class. They do things that will result in them getting kicked out of the classroom. They will distract others. They will get angry, anxious, or frustrated within the classroom. They might throw their bag around the classroom. When you ask them to do their homework at school, they might get really cranky at you and go into meltdown mode, absolute tantrum phase. That's what you'll see if your child has gone down the resign path. Now, if they're going into battle, okay, if they're going into battle for the performance, battle for the wins, they want to perform, they want to be seen as super intelligent, then they're going to put so much pressure on themselves. They're going to be really worried about what they're learning. They're going to get a little angry because they're missing out on information from their teacher potentially. They might get angry that they haven't completed their work and they might want to do it at home, or they might just melt down or go into tantrum phase at home because when they're trying to do their homework, they can't get it right and it's just all over the place. Okay, if you're experiencing that or you have, just let me know. So they're the two phases or the two paths that children will often take when this pressure comes into play. So which of these three do you think is playing out for your child or in your home? Just let me know if anything is starting to click into place for you or any questions that you have. So where does the frustration, the anger, and the anxiety to come from? Where does it come from then? So we've got these three pillars to think about, these three aspects of why it's present. So then why do we see children that are frustrated, angry, and anxious? And I've explained a little bit just previously as well. The thing is, when we're children, we're wanting to belong, which means that we're seeking that praise and recognition and significance from those people that we love the most or that we like or that we deem as better than us. Now, the thing is, when we're children, we adapt to be the person that gets this acceptance depending on the expectations of that environment, usually. Now, where it gets so overwhelming is that children are aiming to please everyone around them and they're exhausted because there's different expectations in a lot of different scenarios and environments, and it's pretty exhausting work, right? So let's bring it back to home. How often does mum and dad have the same views on everything and the same expectations on everything? Never. Rarely. So even at home, we've got the child who needs to meet the expectations, different performance expectations or achievement expectations or be praised in different ways from mum and dad. So alone, we've got two at home. And, it's interesting because parents will always say to me, I just find it so much easier when my husband's not home or when my wife is not home. Everything just flows so much better. Don't you think that's interesting? And the reason why is this phenomena. It's that children are rocking and rolling between two worlds. We've got two parents, two different pools of expectations. And then we've got mum and dad in different moods. It's a world of chaos for children when they're just trying to seek safety and connection and to be accepted. It's a world of chaos. So we've got that environment. Then we've got the school environment. So if we've got children with different teachers, there it is. If we've got one classroom and we've got two different teachers, or we get replacement teachers, one teacher's off sick, or we've got different people in the classroom, then we're trying to figure out, who do I need to be in this environment? Chaos. It's exhausting work. It's exhausting to figure this out. And while we've got children trying to figure this out, we've got our bodies. Okay, this is off topic, but I'll say it anyway. We've got our bodies, right? And we've got the volcano of energy in children's bodies and adults, but children, and it's building through the day. So how much pressure is on them, how much chaos, how much are they suppressing because they're trying to figure out who they need to be? So we've got all of this going on. It's a world of chaos. It's confusing. So what do we do? What do we do about it? What can you do to help? And if you have heard anything along the way, or you've tried anything along the way, pop it in the comments. The more ideas that we have, and let me know what you've tried and what's worked and what hasn't worked. Pop it in the comments. I'd love to know. And this will also help other parents too. So what can we do to help? Now, my frameworks are always based on simplicity. So these are going to be very simple. Simplicity always works. Our emotional brains, and as parents, your emotional brains of wanting to help your child at all costs, it gets in the way of simplicity. It gets in the way. So let's keep everything really simple. And that's how we can create something different and start unraveling all of this pressure and that anxiety and frustration that might be building for your child. So here it is, first tool. And you're going to read this and you're going to go, Jess, you're insane. Why on earth would I do this? How can I do this? That's ridiculous. So just be aware of what comes up in your mind. So we don't want to try and fix or change it. We don't want to try and fix or change it. Don't try and fix or change it. Now, when I say this to my clients, sometimes I get, well, Jess, it's really difficult to hear my child come home and say how upset they are and how much they don't enjoy school. And absolutely, 100%. I don't doubt that. I can't imagine what that's like for you. But here's the thing. When we've got any challenging scenario with children, their primary goal in communicating it is just to be seen and heard in it. So I'll give you an example. So one of my friends came to me because her son's 5, and he would come home and he would be doing, activities and things at home. And he would say things like, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. This is the internal dialogue swimming around in this little boy's head. Now, my friend said to me, I asked her, okay, well, how do you usually respond to this? What do you usually do? And she said, and you might be the same. She told me, well, I let him know that he's not stupid. He's not stupid at all, that I think he's the most intelligent person in the world and that he can absolutely do this, and how he's done it is not wrong. And I was like, okay. And how does that usually pan out? And she said, well, he usually gets more frustrated, or he keeps on saying it, or he'll say it again in another few days. It never usually changes at all. And I asked her, I said, so how often do you accept what he says without needing to alter his mind or persuade him to think differently? And she sat there for a second and she said, probably never. Because I do want to persuade him to see things differently. I do want him to feel differently. And that's understandable totally get that. The thing is, when we try and persuade children to feel or think differently, we cut the ability for them to feel seen and heard off at the knees, so to speak. They don't feel seen in their emotional turmoil. They don't feel heard, and they don't feel like you understand where they're coming from. And this is really important for teens too. Those of you who may have teens, or you will at some point, it's really important for teens as well. But when your children are in emotional states like that, the optimal reaction from parents is to simply receive the information, listen, and allow it to be there. That's it. Not try and persuade them to see anything different. Just simply saying things like, yeah, I get it, mate. I get that would be really, really hard. Yeah. What else? What else do you think about that? That's it. We're getting curious and we're accepting everything that they say without needing to change it. They just want to be heard. And the thing is, each time they don't feel heard, the anxiety or the anger or the frustration they're feeling from all that pressure at school, it compounds. So it builds each time because they're experiencing these emotions and they don't feel heard. So maybe get more curious when your children are explaining this to you. And if you feel like you're doing this, put on your critical lens and see if you can see something that you haven't seen before. Because whenever I go through this with parents and unpack how they react, once this alters, 98% of the time, a child's reaction or behaviors or ability to respond to pressure, it changes because they feel more supported and safe. Finally, someone in my world has gotten me. Have you ever noticed that when you're in an argument with your husband or your wife or your partner, and you're highly emotional? This happens to me all of the time. You're highly emotional and they go into problem-solving mode. Let's just say, for me, my partner or your husband, well, what can we do about it? It doesn't need to be that way. Instantly, your body is tense and you don't feel heard and understood. And I actually get more frustrated. That tends to be what happens in these dynamics between humans, between people. So try this as something different. Number two. So the easier path can be dangerous. Instead of trying to take their pain away, instead help them see the courage that they have inside. So what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is, often I will have parents come to me about the challenges their children are experiencing in the classroom, and they will immediately go to the teacher and say, how can we make things easier in the classroom for my child? And we keep going down the easier path and the easier path and the easier path. Now, this is not to say that adaptations shouldn't be made or changes shouldn't be made in the classroom. I do this all the time with my clients, but this is when we understand the biological needs and the best way the brain learns. That's separate, that's different. But when we want things to be easier, we're actually risking their future self-confidence and their self-belief. We're risking it. Because trying to change or fix things constantly and make things easier, taking the risk out of getting hurt and taking that away from your children will ultimately lead to a lack of confidence for your child and a lack of self-belief. Because if you don't believe that they can tackle it, how could they ever believe that they can tackle it? So your nerves become their nerves. Your confidence becomes their confidence. Your fear becomes their fear. Your courage becomes their courage. I was with a little child one time and their parents, family friend of mine. And this little girl, she was about 4.5 at the time, 5. And she was wanting to jump in this big foam pit. And she said, oh, Dad, can I do it? Can I do it? I'm a bit scared though. And Dad said, oh, you don't have to do it if you don't want to then, if you're scared. And I saw her little face drop. And so I went over to her and I asked her, is it something that you really want to do? And she was like, yeah, but I'm a bit scared. And I was like, oh, let's do it together then. Let's do it together. We'll hold hands, we'll jump on in. In 5 minutes, that girl was the champion jumper. And and the face on her, the smile, she lit up with joy and pride. She only needed somebody to believe in her, believe that she could do it, even though she was scared, terrified, and nervous and anxious. And this is the same things for in school. So where are your fears showing up within how you respond to their fears? Is it that you're worried about them being bullied in school or left out in school, or that they're not getting straight A's and you're worried about their future? This can be a really big thing sometimes. Well, if they're getting C's now or D's now, then what's their future going to hold? So your fear becomes their fear, and then their confidence diminishes. So the easier path can be dangerous. And the reason it can be dangerous is because childhood is the practice ground for the risks, for the fearful moments, for the challenges in how to approach them and react to them. This is the training ground. And I'd write that down. Childhood is the training ground, and there is no safer training ground in our whole lives other than the ones with our parents. But if the training ground is scary, or with scared coaches, scared mentors, worried mentors, fearful mentors, anxious mentors, we don't feel safe enough to go after the risks and show up courageously. We also feel scared. We need coaches that are brave, courageous, that believe in us no matter what we can do or not do. So the ability, your child's ability to bounce back from challenges in school will depend on two things. Their practice with challenges, which is what I just mentioned. How often are they practicing the challenges? Or is everyone around them trying to make their life super easy? Do they practice and practice and practice and practice with these challenges? Because repetition is how children learn. That's why you have to repeat. Put your socks away. Put your lunch boxes away 100,000 times. Repetition is key for children in their learning. They need to practice, and they need you to support them through it, and for you to believe wholeheartedly that no matter what's going on in school or the grades they're getting, or if they get things right or wrong, or if they're not learning as fast as everybody else, that still everything is going to be okay. And how much belief you have in them to face them. How many stories have you heard where the top CEOs in Australia, I know Richard Branson is one of them. I know one of my mentors who now runs a multi-million-dollar company. Who else? There's quite a few. Many of these people either didn't finish school, had dyslexia, had ADHD, and could never keep up with their classmates. But you know what they all had in common? And I did an interview with my mentor about this. Their home was their sanctuary, where their parents believed 150% in them, regardless of what the outside world was scoring, judging, determining in their grades, anything. The parents believed in them. I know that my mentor said home was a sanctuary and my parents believed in me. That was the make or break for me. So I hope that's been helpful. Let me know what you got out of it. If you have any questions, queries, any other ideas, throw them in the comments, because that will be really helpful for other parents who are reading this. And if you're watching the replay, let me know. And if you want to learn more about this, or you want to understand more about how your child's brain and body works biologically and psychologically, then reach out to me. There's still one spot left in the upcoming family program for February, but we can chat about that later. So have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. It's good to be back again. It's good to be here with you, and I'll see you next week for another event. All you need to do is go up to the top of the Facebook page, and there'll be a picture there with all of the events for this month. Bye, everybody. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.